And now I give the floor to Mr. Martin Oels, Senior Specialist on Equality and Non-Discrimination at the International Labour Organization. Sir, you have the floor.
Chairperson, Excellencies, distinguished members of the Forum, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, delegates. It is an honor to present this statement on behalf of the Interagency Support Group on Indigenous Peoples Issues, co-chaired this year by the ILO and the Secretariat of the Permanent Forum. The ISG welcomes in particular that the Green Climate Fund as its newest member to the group. Chairperson, members of the Forum, on the occasion of the International Year of Indigenous Languages, as a group, we wish to emphasize the fundamental role played by languages in expressing identity and values and transmitting knowledge and information. Through languages, people communicate, preserve their cultures, traditions, and their unique modes of thinking and expression. Languages contribute to peace building, inclusion, and good governance. For all these reasons, we must preserve indigenous languages, including through intercultural bilingual education, and recognize their enabling nature for the 2030 Agenda. UN agencies are actively engaged throughout the international year. The theme of the 2019 session of the Permanent Forum, Traditional Knowledge, Generation Transmission and Protection, is of particular importance for indigenous peoples and sustainable development, as illustrated by the rich discussion that the Permanent Forum organized on Tuesday with the active participation and commitment of the relevant UN agencies and international institutions making part of our group, backed up by a written submission of our group made to the Forum entitled Supporting the Knowledge of Indigenous Peoples, Global Initiatives and Responses. Chairperson, 5 years ago, the General Assembly held the World Conference on Indigenous Peoples, an important milestone for the advancement of the rights of indigenous peoples. The outcome document of the conference called on the Secretary General to develop a system-wide action plan for a coherent approach to achieving the ends of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Since its launch in 2015, the System-Wide Action Plan, also known as SWAP, has served as a framework for the work of UN entities related to indigenous peoples and has helped mobilize their greater engagement with the Permanent Forum and with indigenous peoples around the world. As you are aware, UN agencies annually report to the Department of Economic and Social Affairs on their activities, and a summary compilation of the reports received this year from a total of 18 UN system entities is contained in document E/C19 2019/3. Chairperson, in 2018, the IASG held its annual meeting in Cartagena, Colombia. Under the leadership of our co-chair last year, the Fund for Development of Indigenous Peoples of Latin America and the Caribbean, FILAC, and the Indigenous Peoples and Development Branch, Secretariat for the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, which is our permanent co-chair. The ISG would like to thank, in particular, the government of Colombia for having welcomed the group to Cartagena, as well as the Office of the UN Resident Coordinator for their participation and collaboration in this important event. We were also pleased to benefit from the presence of the Vice Chair of the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues and 2 other members of the Forum, as well as participation of representatives of the indigenous peoples of Colombia. At this 2018 annual meeting, ISG members engaged in rich sharing of experiences and challenges in their work related to indigenous peoples, focusing on strategies to advance cooperation. Taking place in Latin America, the meeting was an opportunity to engage with the challenges and opportunities in this specific region. As you know, in 2018, FILAC spearheaded the elaboration of an Ibero-American action plan for the implementation of indigenous peoples' rights. It is also important to mention that the experience of the regional interagency group on indigenous peoples in Latin America was highlighted as an important example to be shared with other regions for potential replication and inspiration. Chairperson, the ILO is very much pleased to serve as the ISG co-chair for 2019, a very special year for the International Labour Organization as we celebrate the ILO centenary, but also the 30th anniversary of the Indigenous and Tribal Peoples Convention number 169. With the General Assembly, the ILO governing body, the Human Rights Council, and the Permanent Forum having encouraged further ratification of Convention number 169 across all regions, the 2019 annual meeting of the ISG will be an opportunity to highlight the Convention and strengthen collaboration for its full and effective implementation. Taking place at ILO headquarters in Geneva from 11th to the 13th September this year, the meeting will enable interactions between UN system entities and the ILO tripartite constituents, namely governments, workers, and employers' organizations. The ISG will meet in Geneva at a time when the UN reform calls for a stronger UN institutional response and system-wide approach to partnership for the 2030 agenda, ensuring greater coherence, transparency, and accountability for results. The reform places the pledge to leave no one behind at the core of efforts for unifying programming and advocacy, including through the revitalized UNDAF, which is firmly centered on the 2030 agenda and national development needs and priorities. New generation UNDAF will also explicitly recognize the UN's normative and global standard setting role, pointing to an important role of the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and ILO Convention number 169. It is therefore timely to reflect on ways and means for ensuring the SWAP's responsiveness to the changes occurring as a result of the UN reform process. Chairperson, in concluding, let me reaffirm on behalf of the Interagency Support Group our strong commitment to supporting UN member states in their efforts to realize the rights set out in the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and to work in partnership with Indigenous peoples to this end. Our engagement with and the guidance provided by the Forum plays a very important role in this regard. We wish the members of the Forum, Indigenous peoples and member states every success at this 18th session. Thank you very much.